Hi, I'm Reverend Wendy Craig-Purcell here at the Unity Center in San Diego. Thank you so much for watching today. If you'd like to support the work that we do here, please consider making a contribution. Go to our website. It's easy to do. Thank you in advance for that contribution.
Reverend Wendy presents a talk that explores and expresses the truths of unity, and that there are real-world practical things that we can do to deepen our experience of spirituality and help us in our daily lives.
So last week we took a look at our community, what we're really about in unity, what we're really about in this particular unity community, and we are about our mission. We are about transforming lives and about healing our world, transforming lives and healing our world. So that's the what. Now, how do we live that out? How do we actually do that? And I think there are three ways that we live that out. And we're going to look at the first way today and the next two in the following 2 weeks. But the three ways that we live out this mission of transforming lives and healing our world is by being spiritually progressive, and by being socially engaged, and by being radically inclusive. Spiritually progressive, socially responsive, and radically inclusive. Radically inclusive. So spiritually progressive. If you look up the word progressive, you will find, as it relates to religion, not politics here, but as it relates to religion, you will find that the term progressive is gaining in popularity in describing certain kinds of churches, certain kinds of Christian churches that want to differentiate themselves from fundamentalism or from the evangelical movement. And it's almost become code when a Christian church calls itself progressive, it almost becomes code for gay-friendly. And now I am all for gay-friendly. Unity has always been gay-friendly. But for us, the idea of being spiritually progressive includes that and so much more than that. So much more than that. It has to do with the way that we show up in the world. We're going to take a look at what that means. When you're spiritually progressive, how are you actually showing up in the world? Before I share that with you, though, I did a little more research last night. I wanted to kind of poke around and see what some of the research is showing in terms of this whole idea of spiritual but not religious, because it's a term you're hearing much more now than ever before. Would you not agree? We've used it to describe us and unity for a very, very long time, but it's absolutely gaining in popularity. And so one of the surveys I found was done by the Public Religion Research Institute and Florida State University. And their research showed that about 18% of Americans identify themselves as being spiritual, but not religious. In their research, they said they have not yet determined whether that percentage is increasing, but what their research does bear out is that there is absolutely growing interest in spirituality. Would you not say that's a really good thing? That's a really good thing. You know, I think religion tends to be based on fear, and spirituality tends to be based on freedom. Religion tends to be based on separation, and spirituality tends to be based on oneness. Of the 8 markers that this particular survey used to try to understand and analyze what it means to be spiritual but not religious, there were 3 markers that stood out. I want to share them with you and ask yourself if you resonate with these. Those who identify as being spiritual but not religious feel particularly connected to the world around them. Particularly connected to the world around them. Do you feel a sense of connection to the world beyond yourself? The second was that they felt a part of something larger than themselves. Do you feel a part of something larger than yourself? I think that's true for all of us in this room. And they found a larger purpose in life. A larger purpose in life. Would you not say that this is describing you? I know it's definitely describing me. There was another survey that I found. It was Barna's survey. And here's what they discovered about those who identify as spiritual but not religious or spiritually progressive. We are curious and open. Is that you? You can be responsive if you want. I think we are. I think we're curious. We're open. We display, I love this, we display an uncommon inclination to think beyond the material and to experience the transcendent. Yeah. We look within to a higher power and wisdom, not outside of ourselves. We find God where? Within. Within. This was an interesting bit of information they found. We are less likely to talk about our spirituality than practicing Christians and evangelicals are likely to talk about their religion. Would you not say that that's true? Yeah. Well, and in part, in a more fundamental approach to Christianity, or belief in a fundamental form of Christianity, it's incumbent upon the believer to evangelize, to convert the world to think the way that they do. We're not trying to convert the world to think the way that we think, right? We are about how do we help people open up to a greater understanding of the spirituality within them, the core of what they really are, and to develop a meaningful relationship with that presence that we call God, in whatever form that wants to take. Because we believe that it is in the awakening to the divinity that's within us, the truth of who we really are, that it is in the awakening to that that we transform ourselves and we begin to live our lives in a very different way. A very different way. The Barna research showed that our spiritual practices tend to include spending time in nature for reflection, meditation and prayer, practicing silence or solitude, journaling, yoga, reading, listening to spiritual books. Raise your hand if you relate to much of what the research has found. I think that's really true for the majority of us in this room. So being spiritually progressive, what does that mean? How do we show up in life as someone who is spiritually progressive? I think one of the things that's very true about being spiritually progressive is to use words that Charles Fillmore used many years ago. Charles was our co-founder. That we are open at the top. We are open at the top. We are open at the top. It means that we allow for ourselves to grow, evolve, and change. It means that we are an open-ended teaching. How many of you are familiar with Christian Science and founded by Mary Baker Eddy? There's a real depth that both Unity and Christian Science began at about the same time. I call them Unity, Christian Science, Science of Mind. We're all cousins, spiritual or theological cousins in my mind. Charles Fillmore was about building a movement, and that movement still exists today, and that movement is growing and thriving. Mary Baker Eddy seemed to be more about building an organization. And when your focus is in building an organization, before long, the organization becomes a monument and it becomes stuck because it's not open at the top. Mary Baker Eddy in her teachings believed that she had it and was done with it, and her teaching was finished and complete. I wonder if she were alive today and were aware of the findings being revealed through the field of quantum physics, for example, if she might alter some of her initial thoughts and teachings. For you see, Charles Fillmore did do that. Charles Fillmore, in the early days, his students wanted him to write a statement of faith. And man, did he resist that. He resisted it because he knew that spirit is alive and moving in each and every one of us. And what we hold to be true today, we just might begin to expand and shift our awareness a little bit years down the road. How many of you in this room today, who have been on a spiritual journey and path for a while, would say that what you know to be true has shifted and changed a bit for you as you have grown? Raise your hand if that is true. Wow, and that was a quick response. What if you were told that no, it had to stay where it was when you first found it? It would feel constricting, right? How many of you are in this teaching because you came out of some form, probably some form of mainline Christianity, that began to feel too restrictive for you. And you began to be told, don't question, this is what it is. And if you ask questions and you didn't get a satisfactory answer, you were told, well, you just have to take it on faith, right? And many of us, I know I'm here, because it was too small a container for consciousness, too small a belief system. And this is what, in large part, being spiritually progressive is about. It's about being open at the top. Second, that we would say is true of being spiritually progressive, is we believe that science is real. Say that with me. Science is real. Science is real. It doesn't mean it's perfect. And it, too, is growing and evolving as science becomes more and more aware of the big macro universe that we live in and the amazing microcosm of life as well. Hal, I'm thinking of you in the book that you had recommended to me that's become one of my favorite books, and it's a book called The Physics of God. If you've not read it, I really encourage you to pick it up and read the book, The Physics of God. And in that book, it talks about the idea of the religion of science and the science of religion. And I love that play on words because there is a science to our spirituality, and there is a spirituality to the emerging science today. Doesn't that excite you? Doesn't it blow your mind a little bit, just the tiny bit that you might understand about quantum physics? I mean, that at a subatomic particle level, that atoms, is it atoms or particles, can act wave-like or help me out here, I'm losing, or particle-like, and what determines it is what? The observer. That's mind-blowing, folks. That's mind-blowing. Science is real. We don't make a god of science, but we don't throw it out. We don't take the Bible literally, that the universe, that God created the universe in 6 days and rested on the seventh. That is absolutely ridiculous. Any reasoning mind knows that that is absolutely ridiculous. But it doesn't change the mysticism and the metaphysics of it, and that's a whole other Bible interpretation lesson we're not going to get into right now. But science is real. It's an aspect of those of us who are spiritually progressive. We're not afraid of science, but we don't make a god of it. Here's something that the Dalai Lama wrote, and I believe Charles Filmer, our founder, if he were alive today, would agree with this. The Dalai Lama on science and Buddhism. If scientific analysis were conclusively to demonstrate certain claims in Buddhism to be false, then we must accept the findings of science and abandon those claims. That's a bold statement, isn't it? That's a spiritually mature statement. A spiritually mature statement. No, as people who are spiritually progressive, we are never asked when we cross the threshold to come into this room to leave our intellect at the door. We are meant to bring our full self in, our questioning mind. Third, we are principle-based, not scripture-based. As spiritual progressives, we are principle-based, not scripture-based. We don't look at the Bible as the inerrant word of God. Breathe a sigh of relief. Breathe a sigh of relief. But we also don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There are some incredible teachings in both the Old Testament and the New Testament. But not all that is there can be taken, a lot of it cannot be taken literally, should not be taken literally. A lot of it cannot be understood just read on its own, separate from an understanding of the time in which it was written, the people for whom it was written, and their level of understanding of the world and the universe when it was written. All that impacts what was said and what was written and how it was written and why it was written. But nonetheless, in our Bible and in all of the world's sacred texts, we can find echoes of spiritual teachings and principles. That's why when we go beneath the surface into the really core, we discover, wait a minute, all the world's religions, when stripped of the ideology, when stripped of the ritual, when you get to the very core and the very heart, there is so much more in common. What religion doesn't teach? Love. Doesn't teach kindness, doesn't teach forgiveness. They all do. They all do. They all do. Charles Fillmore, I shared this with you last week, but I want to read it to you again because it echoes the idea that we are principle-based, not Bible-based. He said, unity is a link in the great educational movement inaugurated by Jesus Christ. Our objective is to discern the truth in Christianity and prove it, to discern it and prove it. The truth that we teach is not new, neither do we claim special revelations or discovery of new religious principles. Our purpose is to help and teach mankind to use and prove the eternal truths taught by the Master. We want to discover what those truths are, and then we want to test them out in the laboratory of our lives. Do these things work? By their fruits you shall know them. Fourth, to be spiritually progressive means that we're not after knowing about God. We want to know God. To be spiritually progressive, to take it out of God language, to be spiritually progressive is about reaching for and opening up into a direct and immediate experience of the oneness of life. It's to have a full-on, real, immediate experience of that, a direct experience of that. Not through another teacher, not through a holy person, a direct experience of that oneness, of that presence, of that power. And for many of us, it requires that we do some healing of our understanding of what God is. There is a unity minister and author by the name of Ellen Davenport, and she wrote a book on Unity's 5 principles. And one of the sections in that book that I really enjoy is the section in which she challenges most of us are desperately in need of revamping our understanding of God because we need a God for grown-ups. A God for grown-ups. A God for thinking people. A God for people of expanded consciousness. And so it is a lived experience that being spiritually progressive is all about. It is so much easier just to accept a set of beliefs and be able to parrot them back and do certain external rituals, but that's not the same thing as what lies beneath those external rituals, what they were initially pointing to begin with. And they were pointing to a direct experience of God, a direct experience of Spirit. Jesus had a direct experience of God. And I believe all of his teachings were spiritually progressive. His true teachings, not the words put in his mouth. That his teachings were spiritually progressive. And this is why he said, don't look at me because you're the same. And instead what we have done, what much of traditional Christianity has done, has set him apart and made him the object. Instead of saying, wait a minute, what was he pointing to? It was because of the experience he had, this awareness, this direct experience with God, that he was able to teach in the way that he taught, and we remember him today. If he had not had the kind of experience I'm talking about, I don't think we'd hear about him today. And I believe that's true of really every true spiritual teacher. I think it was true of the Buddha as well. So ultimately, it is to have an awareness and a direct experience of the oneness and the unity of all life. And then the very last, it's to finally live a changed life as a result of this. To live a changed life as a result of this. When we are spiritually progressive, we will find that the way that we live our lives is different than it used to be. The way we think is different. The way we make choices is different. The things that we do are different. We will find that our relationships change. We will find that what gives us a sense of meaning and purpose in our lives is different. This is why we say one of our 5 core principles in unity is that it is a way of life. It is a way of life. Jesus said much the same when he sent his disciples out. He sent them out by twos. He knew the work could be kind of lonely and tough if they were to do it all by themselves. But he said, the world will know you are my students by how well you love each other. And that was a big change for some of those guys. Because if you pay any attention to the way they acted in various stories in the Gospels, for the most part, they were always jockeying for position. Basically, Jesus, who do you like the best? And he sent them out by twos and said, the world will know you're my students. You're getting this. You're trying to live this. Not by how many people you convert, not by how well you compare it what I say, but all he said is by how well you love one another. And let me close with a question on that. A question that you don't have to raise your hand to. But how many of you would say that learning to really love, to truly love from a spiritual understanding, is one of the most growth-producing and oftentimes challenging experience you've ever put yourself through? Yeah. It's easy to love the ones that are easy to love, right? That's why Jesus said you don't get a reward for that. It feels good, it's wonderful. He didn't say don't love the people that love you and that you love loving. But he said you don't get any reward, meaning you don't grow from that. You grow from what? Loving those that are most challenging to love. Any of you not have a most challenging to love person in your life? Because I have a couple of extra I can give you if you need one. I wouldn't want to deprive you from the master opportunity to grow. So is anybody short of one? Okay, amen.
Many people enjoy Reverend Wendy's talks and meditations and aren't able to attend the Unity Center in person. If you're part of our extended family from around the world and would like to help support the Unity Center, please go to our website or download our free app, which offers even more ways to connect with the Unity Center. Namaste.